allowing a religious way of knowing, of thinking, and of understanding the world to be part of an intellectual exploration is a way of enriching that exploration, is a way of enriching the way we think about things. You know, when I think about the Catholic intellectual tradition, I start with the idea that in the Catholic tradition there are some critical core values. One, that we're created in the image and likeness of God, all people. And the second is that we can only really fully realize what God intends for us, what our human possibilities are in community with others. So when you put those two things together, to me, I think you start to understand a lot about what the Catholic intellectual tradition is trying to do and how it becomes alive in the context of what we might be doing in a law school, for instance. So those two ideas, to me, are the beginning. And then from that, a lot of other things, I think, become really important. We can start talking a little bit more about the values that we want to live out in the law, in medicine, in whatever other type of endeavor we're engaged in. And we can ask hard questions and come back to this notion of, wait a minute, are the people that are involved in this assessment, in this idea, in this project, are they important? Or are we just sort of using them to get something else, to accomplish something else, to do something that really doesn't empower or ennoble the human beings who are involved? What does it say about the kind of professional you'll be when you spend time with an immigrant or with a child who's being abused? Or when you're in a class that's dealing with commercial law and you're asking questions about, well, how does this kind of a rule affect the poor? I mean, what happens when interest rates are deregulated and poor people who rely on payday loans are now, being charged 200% interest to borrow money to pay their rent? Is that the kind of society we want to live in? Is that the way we want people to make money? If so, why? If not, why not? So asking very complex questions about what the law is and thinking very deeply about what the law should be, which is often a question that doesn't get asked. I'm proposing to my students that by allowing yourself to be in an environment where those kinds of questions can be asked and where people take those perspectives seriously, you're going to have a much more rigorous education in the law. You're going to be much better able to understand how communities work and how people think and how values compete. Isn't that a much more exciting way to learn? Certainly about the law, because the law is all about rules that affect the lives of people and affect the course of societies and whether they'll thrive or decline. You're going to come out of this experience with a much better education for having allowed yourself to hear and listen and be formed by the ideas that this tradition represents.